Morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Sultans of Swap. Today is December the 6th, 2015. It's just going to be Brian and Edwin. We're doing a little teaser show today. John is busy. He's having a tree removed, apparently, from his estate in Philadelphia. So he's going to join us later on this evening. Edwin, why don't you tell the kids where they can find us, please, please.
Well, we got a pretty good following going on Twitter, so definitely check us out there. Make sure you follow us. Send us any tweets on what you want to see. Facebook has been active. We're getting a lot of watches, a lot of views, a lot of comments, a lot of discussion on there. So if you're more into kind of the discussion, posting things up on our page, we welcome it. Come on out there and see us. We got a YouTube channel. It's actually getting a lot of action as well. So, follow us on YouTube. Check us out there. I mean, you can pretty much find us anywhere. Just, Google us and you'll find us.
What are we up to on Twitter, Edwin? What do the numbers look like? Does Bieber have anything to fear yet, or?
I honestly don't even know. I stopped counting after a couple hundred. We're up to 511 as of now.
511. We're killing it, man. I love the Twitter followers. It's very cool. I'm gonna have to. I started my own Twitter a little bit ago, and it's horrendous. I'm not an egg, but I am just whatever the level above an egg is. That it is pretty much what my Twitter is, because I thought I'd do it for my professional career. I'm starting to publish more, stuff, and I was like, yeah, this is a great way to get it out. It's not. I don't know. I got to figure out how Sultans of Swap does it, and then apply that to my own egg on Twitter, one way or another. So as you mentioned, man, we have been getting a lot more messages on Facebook, which is what I'm really familiar with for the page. So I do want to cover a few of those things today, and I know, and I want to give credit where credit is due. It was Scott Hubbard wanted us to talk about what's going on in actual baseball right now. How are you with the hot stove, man? Do you follow it pretty close?
I have not lately. I've been watching some of the trade stuff, but I haven't been in it as much as I was last year. Right. And when I'm in it too, obviously I'm a Orioles fan, so I'm looking at the Orioles stuff.
Yeah. I think trade wise hasn't been a huge focus for me yet. I tend to get more into those things for product releases, etc. Who's playing for what. But the big ones were Greinke going to Arizona,
right,
for $1 billion, and that's an estimate. And David Price going to Boston for slightly less than $1 billion. But pretty close to it. Each contract price is about $31 million a year, and Greinke's about $34 million a year, which is kind of setting the bar for starting pitching. I've never been a big fan of the huge starting pitching contracts, and it's not the argument of a guy that only plays once every 5 days. I mean, I think pitching is, it's critical. Having an ace is even more so, and the market's going to bear out what those guys get paid. But I tend to agree with the long contracts, the 10-year type of deals at $30 million, even if the guy's 26, like a Kershaw. I just think those long-term contracts rarely work out towards the end. But at the same time, man, if you could have Kershaw right now in his prime, I wonder how much guys would pay to have that. I think we know the answer is a lot. Now, Arizona spending the money was a surprise to everyone because they hadn't been spending for a long time, but Arizona just signed a $1.5 billion television deal. And those television deals, man, that's what's really shaping free agency. I want the Pirates to sign one of those. So, we can add a Greinke, because how nice would it be? I guess every team could say that, but how nice would it be to add Greinke to any rotation? I think it would certainly be worth it.
I mean, the Orioles have been looking for some pitchers, and I didn't know what was going to happen there either. If they were going to try to get after somebody, but they actually ended up signing O'Day again. I think the real thing for the Orioles, of course, like I said, I'm focused on the Orioles, but is what's going to happen with the whole first base stuff. We just got another first baseman, Chris Davis. I think that's the kind of thing. I think they're saying he's at $150 million or something like that. So
yeah,
be interesting to see what goes on with that though.
Yeah, there's a lot of factors to consider when bringing players like Chris Davis in. and this, I don't know if this makes any sense, but I think Chris Davis has more value in Baltimore than he does in a lot of other towns, just because he is hugely popular here. I mean, the chicks dig Chris Davis. I'm just saying, they really like him.
Yeah.
Well, chicks dig the long ball. So, but it's not just that I'm referring to. But I'm just saying he's a tremendously popular player.
Well, the thing that I'm finding lately, though, too, is a lot of the Baltimore stuff is becoming more and more interchangeable with the national stuff. So the fan base is kind of a little overlapping at times, and that's also causing a pretty interesting aspect to it.
That's interesting to me, the way that you bring that up, because I find myself a Pirates fan, and I live 45 minutes from DC and 45 minutes from Baltimore, so I am right in the middle of that crossover. And I find that I go to probably 2 or 3 Nationals games a year and probably 10 to 12 O's games a year. And it's not the popularity of the teams or who I like more. Like, I love watching Harper, man. I said I watched almost every game the Nats played. And that's true, because I watch, there's that, even with that attendance of 15 games a year, there's still about 147 that I can catch on TV.
Right.
There really is a pretty big down the middle line here. I think you're always going to have your passionate O's fans, guys that grew up with the O's, during the Eddie Murray, Ripken era, if they're in Virginia, that are going to stick with the O's. But at the same time, man, I think the Nats definitely, I don't remember how that deal went down. You may remember better than me, but Angelos was right to put up a stink, because the Nats are really starting to take away from the O's fans base, especially like in the younger kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
You go to a Nats game, man. I noticed that the O's games are more like young people in the ages of, say, early 20s to, early 30s. You go to Nats games, it's either really old dudes or all people with young kids, man. Like really, really young kids that are starting to take their kids there, which is pulling away from the O's a little bit. Not that young guys don't attend the O's games. Of course they do. But I really noticed that, like at Nats Park, when you go there now, they have a whole setup that's all for like 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old kids.
Wow.
Which is really nice, because when they first opened, they didn't have anything like that, because RFK was a pit. So they moved into the new stadium, and it was really nice, but they didn't really have anything for kids. And I think even they realized what I was saying, was that there were so many like 5 to 8-year-olds that were coming that they needed to give them something to do in the stadium. So I know you're down there in Florida. What games you go to down there, man?
Well, I mean, really, you got the Rays over in Tampa, which I haven't been to yet. I drove past there, what was it, a couple weeks ago, and I finally got to see at least the outside of it. But
right.
The Marlins, are down here in Miami. It's close to me. It's probably about an hour away. And Miami's funny. Miami's kind of like a, what's hot town. So, when LeBron was here, it's all about basketball, and, baseball is just kind of like an afterthought. It's so bad they actually give away free tickets. And like, I've been down there 3 times, and it's all on free tickets. You go down, right. And even with giving away so many free tickets, the stadium's empty. I mean, it's completely empty. And they're just trying to put butts in seats so they can sell food and that kind of stuff. But I love baseball, so I'll go watch the Marlins play anybody. No,
the Marlins are interesting with bringing in Mattingly as the manager, and Barry Bonds is probably the big one as the hitting coach coming. So Miami knows how to make a splash. I've been reading a lot of articles about Loria, their owner, lately, and just how much of a just jackass that he is. Yeah. And I have nothing to base that on. Other than what is reported. I've never met the man, so I don't want to throw him under a bus.
Their stadium is beautiful inside. It's a really nice stadium. They got a really funky center. I think everybody knows that, the whole center field thing.
He's an art dealer. That's why he's a big art guy.
The stadium itself is kind of in the middle of kind of. I mean, like most places. I mean, like Baltimore. I mean, that kind of stuff. Sometimes depending on where you are. But Miami is a football town and a basketball town, so that's where most of the fans go, and baseball is just not that popular. I'll tell you where Florida really gets a lot of attention is spring training.
Yeah, that's true.
Everybody
Bradenton, Florida for the Pirates, and of course Yankee spring training is in St. Pete, I believe.
and the O's in Sarasota, and over here where I am, the Cardinals, and and so it's kind of cool. A lot of teams come down here, and you can watch them in spring training, and they do like their fan fests and things down here too. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I've spent a good. I had some family in Florida, and of course, I made several trips to Orlando and Miami, and I even stopped in the ditch that is Jacksonville one time just to see what that was all about. Panama City. I mean, Florida is great, and all the things I just mentioned are reasons that people don't go to baseball games because there are so many other things to do. Yeah, in Florida and go to the baseball game. I think Miami is an interesting story. I mean, they do have two World Series wins, fairly recent history. When they're good and they have an opportunity, man, they'll put the money in. So it's just the way that they go from really good to really bad. They don't have the typical ebbs and flows of a lot of professional sports teams that I think is probably really frustrating for fans, and at the same time very entertaining for those of us who are not particularly connected to the team. But if I'm a guy like Giancarlo Stanton, I mean, I guess I can be really frustrated about our success, but then at the same time enjoy downtown Miami with my $30 million a year contract that I just signed. I think I would be okay surviving with that. So anyway, guys, I know that we're not in deep. I would never consider myself Tim Kurkjian or Buster Olney when it comes to the hot stove. As things start to pertain more to the hobby and we get closer to the season, to be honest, that's when I really pay attention. I think it's fair to say that, moves that are made now are going to have an impact on the season. This is one of those things. I'll be honest, man, I fall into football a lot of times. I'm a red-blooded American. I love apple pie. I, say my pledge of allegiance to the flag, and I watch football on Sundays. So I got my fantasy leagues going, everything else. So I do enjoy the hot stove, but I got to make sure I win my fantasy league first. I need that money to buy more baseball cards.
Well, this is actually my first year in fantasy football.
Your first year? How you making out, man? Everyone loves to hear about fantasy football teams, and I am being so sarcastic right now. It's unbelievable. But because you said it was your first, I'm actually intrigued. I
didn't know what to expect. I've always kind of ducked and dodged the whole fantasy thing, and I said, let me just give it a shot this year. And I joined just a random Yahoo league. I was like, look, if I suck, nobody's gonna know. Nobody's gonna make fun of me. It's just like, hey, I'm just gonna join some rando, league, and I'm actually doing pretty good.
Was it for money?
No. It's just
dude, that doesn't even count. I'm sorry. I don't want to rain on your parade.
You're right. It doesn't count. I mean, at all. But I wanted to kind of get familiar with how it worked. Because
I'm busting your chops.
I didn't know, man. And I'm second right now. I'm 9-3-0, which is not too bad. But man, I kind of like let in. You want to, I'm a Dallas fan. Don't hold it against me, but I'm a Dallas fan, and you go after the Dallas players. So I got Romo. I got.
Oh my God, dude! If I was hosting a fantasy football league show instead of a hobby baseball card related show, I would be killing you right now. That is a cardinal sin of fantasy football. You don't do that, dude. I hate the Ravens. Their stupid purple uniforms. I could say so many things right now that would be inappropriate. But I will draft a Raven if it's the best pick in the slot that I have.
Yeah. Well, the good thing was he wasn't the only quarterback I got. I got Carson Palmer too.
Oh yeah, you did.
So I used Romo for the first little bit, and then when he and I held on to him because he's coming back. Maybe he's going to do good. And then obviously I had to drop him now, but Carson, he's been holding me through. So, I think that's my saving grace there. But, I definitely learned a lot of, how to do it. And I think next time around, I'm probably going to jump into like a more advanced league,
Yeah.
But
it's fun, man. I can't wait. I got the playoffs coming up here. So
I'm going to look forward to baseball. I'm going to look forward to fantasy baseball.
I did fantasy baseball in my early 20s because the thing with fantasy baseball is, man, you have to do it every day. Like you cannot mess around particularly like in a rotisserie league. I mean, you like football is nice because you really have to pay attention on Wednesday.
like once a
which
week,
is
yeah.
before you set your lineups and you can, make your pickups and drops. But in baseball, dude, like don't do a baseball league unless you have, I'm not kidding, like a half hour every day, just because like keeping up with injuries, keeping up with all the transactions, keeping up with like who's the starting pitchers for the day and who's not, moving those guys around, shifting your lineups when guys take days off, stuff like that. I mean, if you're just doing it for fun, if you don't have any money into it, I mean, God bless you, have fun. But some of the leagues I've been in have been for like a couple $100s, and then you pay for all your transactions. And I mean, if you do some advanced analytics, you can make some good money in fantasy baseball, but it's like a full-time job, dude. Like it's not baseball, fantasy baseball and fantasy football are so far apart.
It's good enough.
It's not even funny, man. Like I said, if you're doing it for fun, knock your socks off. But if you're putting any amount of money into it, you have to dedicate like real time. Speaking of dedicating real time, John is dedicating some real time, as I mentioned earlier. Two of the other questions that we got off of Twitter, I believe, and I want to make sure that I get the names right. One was from Brian Backey. He was asking about selling on eBay. That's one that I'm going to leave to John because he does it a lot more. I think you and I could stab at it, but John would definitely have the better answers. Another one was about the relics, the relics that come in cards, their authenticity, etc. That was from Scott Hubbard again. I think that's a great question, but again, one I'm going to say for John. The one that I'm going to throw over to you, Edwin, that I think you'd be very good at answering at is about the PSA Oddball cards. The PSA Oddball question come from UW in his French, I'm assuming Louisiana, YouTube name. He says, Edwin's a player collector. You'd like his thoughts on being anal about not slabbing oddballs or panels in the registry cards cut from uncut sheets. I think they should be happy to take our money if they want them to. In regards to those oddballs that are not authentic, authorized, they can label them in a different way. So that was a question for you, Edwin, and I'm interested in your thoughts on this too. I don't do a lot of oddball stuff for that reason. One of the things I very much dislike about oddball cards is the slabs aren't the same size some of the time, and they don't always go together. I don't know if that's exact. I know that wasn't specific to his question. The other thing I like about oddball cards is it's never ending. Once you start getting into oddball cards, you could collect until the end of time and still never have every oddball card of a particular player that you want. I do try and pick up. The one thing I do with oddball cards is I'll try and get one of pretty much like everybody. So like if I get a 1964 top stand-up, which is considered an oddball, which fits in the slab, that's nice. I have like, say, I don't know if I have it back there, but I have like a Warren Spahn. And for the Sportflix cards, the ones that, are like hologrammed from like 72 and 73, Post Serial did a few of those. Like I'll have like a Clemente or a Mantle or someone like that. But anyway, to answer the gentleman's question, as a player collector, where are you with the oddball cards and slabbing?
Well, obviously, with it being a player super collector like myself, I mean, you're going to go after the oddball cards. I mean, you want everything that player has. The thing about it, the slabbing of the oddball cards are, I wish I could get everything slabbed. I mean, it's just, I mean, that's just kind of the way I am. I want everything, to be, in a protective case. I want everything to be graded. I want everything to be authenticated, but at the same time, PSA is really picky on what they do, slab.
So they won't slab every oddball card?
No. And it
like
comes
BGS, man. BGS will put plastic around your house if you give them enough money.
For the most part, they will. There's a couple things that they still won't slab. And, part of it comes down to having the right holders and doing the right homework. And I don't think PSA's invested enough time into that yet, because you can actually damage the cards when you're slabbing them with the wrong cases. And, I've even seen this happen. It's heartbreaking. You see, even in, I'm in a couple groups that are just for some super collectors, and, they'll get their cards back, and you can tell that there is creasing on the card after it was slabbed in the wrong case.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it's almost to the point where you almost have to take scans, front and backs of your cards before you send them to some companies and things like that. Because once you get it back and it's creased, they're like,
how it came or whatever.
Yeah, so I mean, it's
really,
a shame.
they play that game, man.
Yeah, I think for PSA though, they just kind of like shy away from it because the risk value of slabbing it in the wrong case, not knowing what you do. But to me, as being a graded authenticator, I mean, you would want to kind of open up that conduit for revenue. You would want to take our money. If I want to have any an oddball card slabbed and it was a weird size. You would think that they would just, come up with a way of doing that so they could just slab it, but they
Well, hold on. If I may, I'm just now I'm going to play the no information, but take it from the side of like running a business.
Yeah, yeah.
I can certainly am educated enough to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I can see with the amount of money that PSA brings in from like general memorabilia, not going down that road from the perspective of, first of all, it's the risk of damaging the cards, which you already mentioned. Second would be having to come up with the slabs for all of those items and manufacturing them. Like you're taking a very small amount, like the money you would have to put into like getting the mold done, having them created, et cetera down the line, for a very small amount. I think I'm going to defend PSA on that one, man. I think if I added up all the money, it's a lose money proposition for them.
But I see it as, finding a way not to come up with a mold for everything, but finding a way to come up with some type of, framing aspect for various different sizes. So
like
for instance,
generically.
Yeah, when you look at like a SGC slab, for instance, they have the black, piece that will frame, the cards and hold them tighter, and
right.
And so, they may need to come up with some way of doing it. And they have the little Mylar stuff now that will hold like certain things in place.
That's what I was just going to say. That Mylar is you hit the nail on the head. I couldn't think of the word, but when you said it, it hit me like a ton of bricks.
Yeah, like the Slurpee coins. I have some of those. But
I don't like those.
I mean, I literally have slabs from PSA that are this tall. For the stand.
Oh yeah.
That the Giants. Almost.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if they don't slab anything really over like a 5x7 or one of those really tall stand-ups. And
hold on, you'll be able to tell me here right behind me. I have this Oddball. I've been thinking about getting that slabbed. I don't know if you can see it. It's a Willie Mays record.
I won't slab it.
It's
too big.
1962. I think these are not particularly rare by any stretch. I mean, it's like $50 or whatever. But I got it in this gray plastic sleeve, and I was like, it's still to say, hey kid, I might want to send it in, just get it slabbed up, not graded.
PSA won't do it. PSA won't do it. A 5x7 is about the tallest they'll go for that type of photo, type of card or whatever the case may be. But
that's a record.
A record, yeah.
Like it's a 45. You put it on a.
So, believe it or not, even people are going to, like, for instance, I'll tell you another one. Rack packs. People have tons of rack packs that they want to get slabbed. PSA BGS won't do a rack pack. The only people that will do a rack pack, GAI.
Oh, God, no, don't do that.
And people do it just because they're the only ones that will actually slab them.
Well, GAI, they got to do something, so I don't blame them.
And they get into the unopened stuff and they fill that niche, but it shows you right there that there's a market out there for it. People are going to pay for it, whether or not you sell it. And, it's a shame. And I get what he's saying. He's saying, look, I want to get it slabbed. I'm trying to give you money. Take it.
Right.
Why?
Right.
And there's.
Well,
and
I'm playing devil's advocate a little bit, man. I'm playing the other side, which is that I'm gonna have to lose money to give you what you want.
Yeah,
I bet because dude, people sat in a room, I promise you, and did the math. Because it's not just that guy. I know there are probably plenty of guys that want to do it, and I'm sure, dude, they sat there and did the math, and if the beans in the pile of making money would have worked out, they'd be slabbing them. That's what I'm saying.
Well, and I think that's where like GAI comes in because I think they have more like the blow mold type of setup where it's almost like they have a little bit more of a customizable process. And I think it's probably easier for them to kind of fill that niche, for those things. So that's what I would say. I would say if you're not worried about so much getting it, graded by PSA, but you just want to get it preserved or you want to get it protected, then, you may have to look at either BGS or even, unfortunately, one of these lower tier, grading companies.
Don't do it.
I mean, I'm just saying it just from the standpoint of getting it slabbed.
Yeah, getting it slabbed.
If you're looking at it just from that standpoint, but
it's just the way I collect, man. I my heart can't take a losing proposition.
Yeah, I don't have any GAI. I'll just be honest.
Collecting. Dude, I've tried. Back in the day, I bought some GAI stuff when it wasn't let's say it had the poor reputation that it has now after, whatever. And we don't need to go down the whole road, but basically they had some issues with things that they authenticated as authentic that were clearly not.
As did all,
what's that?
I said, as did all,
did all, but theirs was particularly egregious.
Yes.
You can look that up online if you want to learn more about
GAI.
Right. But my point with GAI was I had some stuff that, was cards, that were autographed and authenticated by the company, but they were in GAI slabs. I couldn't give them away. I mean, I could not give them away. It was almost impossible. So that's my hesitation with.
I guess what I'm trying to get at though is if you're doing it from a PC standpoint,
from a PC standpoint,
it's going to be your PC. You're just
that's
looking.
What I sold to.
Do that. Most people I know that end up doing that because if you're going to find like an unopened cello pack, I'll be honest with you, 30% of the chance you're going to find a GAI one out there on eBay or something like that. Where it's already slapped and that kind of stuff. Even some of the ones like for me, I look at. Like the cello packs that have like Ripken autograph on the outside of them, with his rookie card showing on top and things like that. I mean, you're going to have to buy a GAI, to get one of those. But most people that are buying it are ultimately like on a cello pack, since PSA and BGS, they both, slab those, they'll just buy it and crack it and then resub it and, go ahead and get it switched over. But unfortunately, on some of the other things like the large rack packs, the oddballs, like I said, I mean, I think their position is, from the same point that you're coming from, it's a monetary thing. They're not going to make money off of it. But at the same time, the risk of damaging the product, sits out there. And I think that's why they stay away from some of that.
That's really cool, man. You've obviously given it away more thought than I have as a super collector. So you were definitely better positioned to answer that question than I was. I know I take some pretty firm positions on things, and if I come across that way, it's because I'm always looking at the aspect of reselling items. I don't know how far down we necessarily could go with that one, but I enjoy collecting things that I know are not ever going to be worth anything. Like they're just kind of mine. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, should that bus strike me on the side of the road, I need to know, for my own sake that, my wife won't have a very difficult time getting rid of what I have. And I know that PSA, she could slap it on eBay for 99 cents with a no reserve auction, and someone is going to give her something reasonable for it at a certain amount of time. I just don't know that I have that confidence with a lot of those other brands.
Very fair. So, I mean, that's a very fair statement. I could agree with you more. And that's a lot of reason why on my higher end pieces and things like that, I mean, I've been a big, graded card fan.
Yeah. So, and another thing that we got out there through our Facebook page was people wanted us to tell them what we've procured in our personal collection since our last get together. I'll be honest, man, we've been gone for 2 weeks. Thanksgiving, I was full of turkey, and I took a long nap through our last one. And I know you and John both had your family things. I can't go through everything I got in the last 2 weeks, and that sounds a little braggadocious, but I've been going at it hard, man. My LCS had a Black Friday type of sale where the vintage case went from normally, what it was to 25% off. And they had another one that they did 50% off. I kind of lost my mind a little bit. And then I've also been very busy on the pages, on the Facebook pages, picking up cards. I showed you earlier, I did get the 1967 Topps Brooks Robinson which I was showing Edwin earlier. And the thing about the 1967 Brooks Robinson that you may not know is that out of 5 series in the 67 Topps, Brooks Robinson comes from, I believe that is the 5th series, so it's a high number, SP, and there's not a lot of them. It's not a very common card. If you go back and you look at vintage cards, you might notice every now and again a guy like Bill Mazeroski, who was, a Hall of Famer, but very fringe, certainly had a big moment in the 1960 World Series. His 1960 Topps is worth $5. But his 1972 Topps is worth $30, and his 1961 Topps is worth $50. And the reason why that is because of the high number SPs, which is now replicated in modern products. So I had been eyeing that card up for about 6 months at the shop. They had it marked for $150. I said, I'll give you $100. He said, it's yours. So that was one of my pickups. What have you got, Edwin, lately? I assume a Cal Ripken Jr. or two has found its way into your house.
Yeah, this month has been pretty active for me as well. Let's see. I've already, a lot of products start coming out, so I started pre-ordering some stuff. So I started kind of putting money down for the future. I don't do a lot of trades, but I actually did some trades this month as well. And over the holidays, I traded Chipper Jones auto, 2015 high-tech auto for 5 autographed baseballs from former Orioles, which was kind of cool. Actually, four former Orioles and 1 non-Oriole, but within there, you had the Earl Weaver, you had the Brooks Robinson, and the non-Oriole was the Duke Snyder, which was pretty cool for me. I picked up my first book card. So this was eBay.
Yes, I saw that, man. The Brooks and the Cal bat. That is badass.
Yeah.
Out of 5, right?
Exactly. And I'm a huge museum collection fan. So
I love that card.
It's 2013, which I don't have a lot of. I have, most of my collection is 2014, 2015. So It was pretty cool, and it's number 5, and I know people get into that whole jersey number thing, Ripken wore number 5 in the minor leagues, and, obviously Brooks Robinson, number 5. So I thought it was pretty cool, so it was one of those things. I got a good deal on it, as the eBay buy, and I said, you know what, I want my first book, and I ended up with it.
That's nice, man. Well, and this is what happens. We do the my Schwartz is bigger than your Schwartz kind of thing. So This is one of the first booklets that I bought.
Let's see it.
It's Bryce Harper and Yoenis Cespedes.
Yeah, on card.
5-star on card. The one thing I noticed with that card that I liked in particular was that with the Bryce Harper autographs, a lot of the time his autograph will be a little streaky. I don't know if people have noticed that, particularly the H as it comes. Now, this is really where we get dorky, dude. But if you notice in the H, when he comes across to strike at the end, a lot of times that will be a little streaky and very clean there. Cespedes, I think, is going to get a big contract this offseason. He's a stud player. I didn't have a Harper autograph at the time when I bought that, so I really wanted to pick that up. The other thing I wanted to do kind of for the people at home is I wanted to go over a trade that I just made since I haven't packaged it up yet. I did make a trade with a guy on one of the Facebook pages. He had a 1956 Sandy Koufax PSA 3. I've wanted the 56 Koufax for a long time. 56 is one of my favorite sets. The guy that I'm trading with, he does personal collections of Roberto Clemente, Willie Mays, and Bob Gibson. And I just happen to have a few of the cards he wanted. So I'm trading him for the Koufax, a 66 Clemente PSA 5. I'm trading a 1972 Topps Willie Mays Raw, which is in EXMT, I would say, condition. And then 1975 Topps Bob Gibson, which is only a few dollar card. This particular card is near mint. It's dead centered. When you're trading vintage cards, of course, condition is everything. Raw is very hard to trade, but I really trust this guy. He really trusts me, and I wanted that 56 Koufax bad, So I sucked it up, and I personally collect Roberto Clemente, not to the extent that you do with Ripken. But I said, you know what? How many 66 Clementes does one man need?
I felt you sell a little bit of your soul for that one.
I did, man. It's so funny, but I really am getting to the point where, I do ask myself, do I need 9 of them? Some people might say yes, I need 9 of them, but I don't. I don't need 9. I really just need 1. So what I'm starting to do is pare down a little bit and diversify my portfolio of people. And Koufax is one of the guys that I just love to collect. He is such a following, as he should, is one of the greatest pitchers of all time. So moving it over that way a little bit.
Yeah.
So anyway, guys, this is a shortened episode. We may try and see if we can wrestle up John once his estate lawn is properly manicured and the horses are in the barn, and see if he can get on tonight. I do want to say thanks so much for checking us out. I really appreciate it. I love the questions that I get through the week. You can always find me on Facebook. If you go to the Sultans of SWAT page, Brian Johnson, you'll find me right there. I'm easy to find. So if you want to ring it out one more time, Edwin, I'd really appreciate it.
Yeah, just Twitter, Sultans of Swap, YouTube, Facebook. I mean, we're all over the place. And if you try to send us a message, we'll connect with you. We really like the questions. We love the feedback that you guys offer. Thank you for watching and looking forward to the next episode.
All right, man. Thanks, Edwin. And thanks, guys, for checking us out. Really appreciate it. Later.